the Stevens Point School District. I'm working on a PEP grant, which is a physical education program grant, and we have a Safe Routes to School grant that we're implementing in one of our schools. So,
I'm Sarah Wallace. I work for the Portage County Planning and Zoning Office, and I'll be talking about the different efforts that we're doing from a county standpoint.
So, again, I work for Stevens Point District. The Stevens Point District received a fairly large grant, almost $2 million, to promote physical activity and nutrition for all students, grades K through 12. So my position is community liaison, so I work with a lot of different organizations to kind of sort of collaborate efforts in the community to promote physical activity and nutrition. Safe Routes to School is one of the efforts. We received funding from Portage, a coalition in Portage County, to implement a grant. Last year, Roosevelt and Madison got grants in our school districts. I wasn't real familiar with what they did because I didn't start in our school district until February, but they had some successful programs. And then this year, the coalition had 2 other grants that they gave out to Amherst and to Jefferson Elementary School, which is where I'm based from. So that's where I'm based out of. I just want to share a little bit of history about Safe Routes to School. The Safe Routes to School program actually began in Denmark in the late 1970s because there was a lot of traffic fatalities, like kids going to schools. So that's kind of where this program started. The first modern programs took place in the U.S. in the late 90s. So the Bronx had a program that they started, I think it was in 1997, and then the following year, the U.S. Department of Transportation sponsored, gave some funds to have a couple pilot programs. One was in Marin County, California, and then the other one was in Arlington, Massachusetts. And the Marin County, California one's kind of the big one. They're like kind of, if you look for information, a lot of it is what they did with their program. In 2005, Congress established Safe Routes to School as a national program, and all states received funding. The information I was looking at when I was doing this said through 2009, so I'm not exactly...
They just extended the transportation bill, and it is included as part of that, and they're going to have to go through the retransportation. But I forget how long it's extended to. I think it's another year.
6 months.
Or maybe only 6 months, but it has been extended for a period of time.
Cool. I knew that it was still around, but I wasn't sure what the timeline was, so thanks, Sarah. And the Federal Highway Administration administers a program. All the states get funding for it. Every state has a coordinator, and then the money gets dispersed according to how the state decides to do it. For our Safe Routes to School grant at my elementary school, Portage County CAN, which is a local coalition of organizations that are working to improve health in Portage County. And they have, you might tell me, they have 3 initiatives. One's mental health, and then physical health. Do you know the third one?
Wellness,
just general wellness. So, as part of what they're doing, they secured funds, and they're working with. It's open to any school in Portage County. So my grant, or my school that I'm working with, this is like bringing it down to like what we're doing. And I'm kind of new to the program. Also, I did go to the Safe Routes to School grant with Sarah, and then also Rachel, one of the health educators from Portage County Health and Human Services. And so the cool thing about Safe Routes to School is you can really make it fit. It's designed to fit whatever your situation is. For example, so there's 5 E's that they use in Safe Routes to School. And the first one is evaluation. So right now, next week in our elementary school, we're going to be sending home a parent survey, and then also a tally. The teachers are going to do tallies in their classrooms, and that's how we're going to determine how kids get to school, what percentage are walking or biking to school, or taking the bus, or getting dropped off, or whatever the situation is. Jefferson is kind of unique because it's a non-bus school. We do have a couple of school buses that come to our school to drop off children that are there for special needs, and the teachers that they need to be with are in that school. But most of the population does not have, we don't have bus service because the area that we serve is real small. So, and then we're sending home a survey to parents, especially in our schools, since it is such a small service area. We want to know why aren't parents, or why aren't kids walking or biking to school, and a lot of times it has to do with the parent's safety or convenience or whatever the situation is. So at the end of next week, and when we compile all that data, we should have a better idea of what percentage of our kids are walking or biking to school, and if they're not, what reasons aren't they walking or biking to school, and then we can start to look at those barriers and address them. I'm kind of excited the way Jefferson's approaching it. I mentioned it to all, I told all the teachers that we had this project, and our 2 6th grade teachers said we want to do this as a service learning project for our 6th graders. So we have both of the 6th grade classes that are going to be working on it, dividing into groups, taking different aspects of the program. So because it's coming from them, that should really add a good dimension to the program and be more successful because of that. After evaluation, there's 4 other E's. There's encouragement, education, enforcement, and engineering. Encouragement's going to be a big one for us. That's where you just encourage the kids to walk and bike to school. You can do any variety of things. You can have prizes for walking to school. You can have group walk to school days. Just tracking. Even just simply saying, hey, it's great that you do walk to school already, gives it more of a social, yeah, I walk to school. And so it kind of makes it a little bit cooler, and because you're really trying to change the culture of walking and biking to school. I don't have a pulse of what that's like now, but I would assume in our school, because we are not a non-bus school, that most kids are pretty cool with it. But if we can encourage that even more, that's even better. I had some other things down here. Other things that have been done are walk and rolls, they call them, and a lot of schools will do walk and roll Wednesdays, and I know Roosevelt did that last year. So every Wednesday is a walk and roll day to come to school, and so all the kids try to either walk or bike that day, and then if necessary, the support's set up for them, allow them to do that. Getting other community members involved is a big way to encourage, either having the principal walk, or one school that I read about in Eau Claire had their university football team walk on the walk to school day. So it's just whatever you want to do that would appeal to your students is what you go for. Education is another part of it, because you're really trying to change cultural norms. So you want to educate the kids on being safe, on following traffic laws, and knowing when to walk and when to cross the street, and how to be safe when they're biking and walking to school. And it's also educating parents too, and drivers in the community. So you want to make sure that your parents know how you want kids to be dropped off for school and what the traffic laws are, so that it's safe from a parent-driver standpoint as well. Then you get into the engineering. Engineering has to do with infrastructure. So, and I know you'll probably talk more about that. Making sure we have safe sidewalks, making sure the streets are well lit, making sure that there's crossing guards where it needs to be, and we kind of know where to address those issues from the parent survey that we'll get back. If most of them say, I don't want my kid crossing Division Street, well, how can we address that? How can we reduce that barrier so that they do feel safe letting their kids walk across Division Street? And then the final one is enforcement, and that's working together with law enforcement. Some of it's education as well, making sure that drivers are aware what the speed limits are in school zones, and what the laws are for pedestrians. And then I know Roosevelt worked with their police department extensively to get crossing guards where they needed them, and the police officers would do extra patrol on walk and roll Wednesdays, and so they really worked together with the police department to make it safer for kids to walk to school. So I'm really excited for our program. I'm excited to see what the 6th graders come up with. It's kind of wide open. International Walk to School Day is October 5th, so it's coming up. So we're going to be promoting that and doing a special event that day. Also, the Moon Walk is coming up. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's Walk Wisconsin's event, and that's October 8th, which I've heard is really fun. I've not done it, but is it cool?
That's a good time.
Yeah. So we're promoting that as well. And that's part of what I do as well, is promoting other ways for kids to be physically active within the school, so community programs like that. So I'm going to try to tie that in with our Safe Routes to School programming as well. So.
That's kind of all I have.
Any questions? Thoughts?
Are you familiar with bike trains?
Bike trains.
Yep,
Or
bike
the-
trains.
Are you
The
trying
buses,
to?
whatever, what's the other one? Bike bus or walking buses?
The walking school
walking,
buses.
yeah.
So
So-
bike trains and walking school buses are two types of programs that schools can intervene or use to intervene and support walking and biking to school. So familiar with those programs? I don't know if those are going to work for our school because we're kind of in the beginning, but yeah. The walking school bus, I think, is such a cute idea. Because you basically set up routes, and the grant that we received, they do a map of our community, and you assess the neighborhood. Where are the safe places to cross? What are the main streets? And then you set up routes. Like, well, if you live in this area, funnel down, and these are the safe routes, literally, to school. So, and walking school bus uses those routes, and you have a chaperone or a parent start at one end, and they pick up kids along the way. And have you seen it in action?
I haven't seen
I've seen. I lived in Portland for quite a while, so I've seen a lot of video of kids riding to school and read about how kids are so happy they get to ride to school with their friends, kind
Yeah.
of thing. And it's like there's a lot of good things that come out of it. So it's
And Portland's way ahead. When we went to the Safe
Right.
Routes to School conference, everyone was like, oh, Portland, they're the city to beat, I guess.
But at least it just seems good to know that these things are out there, that they see and they have examples that are actually
Yeah,
they're actually happening. So
it's very cool.
Portage County Planning and Zoning Office has a number of different initiatives that we've been working on. I worked with our Health and Human Services Office, who is the entity that helps the Portage County CAN Coalition, is the one that's overseeing the grant funding for the Safe Routes to School program. So initially, I attended all the different meetings that they have with all the Safe Routes to School programs for the last year, and probably will start again this year. Each school does a walking audit. We go out, we assess the sidewalks, the location of the sidewalks, different trails. What are the sign locations? Where are the signs around the school? What are the speed limits posted? What are the dangerous intersections? And those are the maps that get produced for each school. We had 2 last year, we have 2 this year, and I think we're hoping to do 3 next year. So it's many grants that we're giving out from our Health and Human Services Office as a grant that they had received. So that's one aspect that I work on. I also applied for Department of Transportation enhancement grant for bicycle and pedestrian. We have been awarded a $120,000 planning grant, and that's the money that will come from the state and the feds. And with our 20% match, it'll be a $150,000 planning grant. So we're in the process right now of reviewing and drafting the request for proposals for consultants to help us with that project, and I'll get more into that later on. But in order to have a solid baseline of information of what is our mode shares, what is our activity, what are our traffic counts for bicycles and pedestrians. We take traffic counts for vehicles throughout the year. That's the information that the DOT and other entities use to justify the need for improvements on roads or what size the roads are. But we don't have or collect that data for bicycle and pedestrians. Portage County just participated in the first National Bicycle Pedestrian Documentation Project. You may have seen some articles in the newspaper. We solicited for volunteers, and we got 20-some plus volunteers. We ended up counting at 15 separate locations. The National Documentation Project is responding for the need for that information that does not exist, improving on the data that we collect, and making it consistent across the nation. There had been efforts taken at one location and another location to do some sort of bicycle pedestrian counts, but you could never compare them because they were never taken statistically the same. So we were able to do that. We successfully had those 15 counts. Bob Fish is in the audience. He was one of our volunteers and counted at 2 of the locations for us, so give him a little applause for that. But the documentation project fulfills the needs for that analysis that we need. To use the data to go to our elected officials and to different representatives, or to use that information as part of a grant to say, this is our need, this is what we have, this is our baseline. Stevens Point is mode share, which is, whether you ride your bike or you walk or you travel, has a really good bicycling and pedestrian mode share. We have 6% bicyclists and over 12% pedestrian mode share, which is really high. 6% bicycle is number one in the state of Wisconsin. We beat out Madison, we beat out Milwaukee, we beat out everybody else. We're a little bit smaller population, but that's still really good kudos for us. And as Portage County, as considered a rural entity, as you look across the nation, we're rural. And we have 3.5% bicycle mode share and just under 6 walking mode share, which is really good already. So we have a really solid ground moving forward. But other than those numbers that we get from the community survey or from the census, which are considerably general and not very detailed, we wanted to find more data on what we could get. So we did this documentation project, and we anticipated doing it at least every year at the same time, and then revolve around other projects to help us get that data. As we move forward, we'll determine if we want to do a spring and summer count also. We're looking for not just our department to kind of spearhead this and keep it going, but we're looking for other entities that are willing to kind of take over the project and coordinate with our department to do that. To coordinate and get volunteers, keep them active, it takes a lot of time. So we're looking for somebody to help us really spearhead that effort. So if anybody's interested. But we're using that data then to help us with our larger bicycle and pedestrian project. In 1997 was the urban areas, so the city of Stevens Point, Village of Clover, Whiting, Portage, and some of the outlying towns participated and drafted their first bicycle and pedestrian plan. There really hasn't been any discussion or anything since then, and some of the stuff is either developed or things have changed so much that it's out of date. So we decided that we would go for this planning grant, which we received, and we've been working with the city of Stevens Point and the Village of Clover as the 2 other largest entities to identify their specific needs on the data. So ultimately, we're going to hire a consultant. Depending on how things go at the state level and approvals, we're hoping to have our consultant on board with the contract beginning of 2012. That'll have an early 2012 spring start date for participation in meetings to move forward with identifying a number of different things. With $120,000 for a planning project, you can get pretty in-depth. We're looking at having very specific information detailed down to the local municipality, which they can adopt and put as part of their improvement plan, to include as part of their capital improvements project, and to be included as part of their public works projects as different projects come along. That'll also give us stronger ground to go around for the next round. Hopefully we get TV funding in 2012 or 2013, depending on federal and state funds, for us to take that number 1 priority project or number 2 priority project and use that money, and use all that information gathered throughout these 2 planning projects to get a really solid grant to get more money in and funding to help us implement some of the projects that we want to do. So that's the real quick and dirty of what we're doing. We participate at a number of different levels, different projects. I work with the city of Stevens Point and the Village of Clover. I'm officially the urban planner, but we do a lot of different stuff in our office. So we have a really good working relationship with every municipality. The town of Hall is looking at a number of different things on what they want to do, and we're trying to work with them to help guide them in different areas and trying to get a bunch of different information out there. So that's what we can offer. I'm hoping that people will participate, and we try to do as best that we can to put out press releases and information and information on our websites to get people involved. Sometimes it's hard just to get some of that grassroots effort, but as a county, that's what we're trying to do, and we're looking at getting the public involved as much as possible to identify these routes. So if anybody has any questions.
More of a comment than a question on the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure side. I've heard a number of comments from citizens about plowing and walking. That maybe the sidewalks aren't plowed, and that students walking to school might be walking in the streets on a snowy day. And it was just one of those things that's less of a physical infrastructure and more of a case of state of the infrastructure at a given time.
Well, the city of Stevens Point has an ordinance that you're required to plow your sidewalks. But there's also the Green Circle Trail and other facilities that are either used for something else in the winter months, for cross-country skiing or snowshoes, or they're just not open. Portage County, in conjunction with the city of Stevens Point, has put funding together, and we have installed, and we'll be installing hopefully next week, a sidewalk and a 10-foot wide asphalt trail in the Portage County Business Park. Because when that project was developed, it was never intended for the types of uses it is now. It was more industrial, and was never really intended to have 3 daycares and travel guard and a Venture 212 and the hostel shop that are in there. When you have a number of people that walk and bike to work, or want to do that activity on their lunch hour breaks, or to just go to get something to eat at Cox's Commons or the Subway. So we coordinate with the City of Stevens Point on funding and engineering to put in those different facilities. And one of the questions that came out during this process was, is it going to be 24, is it going to be year round? And we've had some people that are really interested in keeping it every day of the year, and other people say, well, there's just not going to be anybody using it. So there's this whole educational. So what we decided we would do this year is we're going to plow it. We're going to maintain it. We're going to plow it. It's going to be open 24/7. We're going to meet in spring, and we're going to evaluate it. Because otherwise you have so many people that just feel that I want to go over there. So I think it's an educational level that needs to happen throughout the community on there's a very large population in this area that bike year round and want to be able to use those facilities year round, whether they're for recreational or for camping. So that's just another one of those educational things that we're going to go through. And as part of the planning project that we're looking at identifying what educational activities we do now, what other educational things can we be doing. All of those 5 E's we want to detail out completely throughout that project. It's just in the process of the drafting the RFP. It's really in depth, and we're hoping to have that out soon. So it's a really exciting project. So.
The shoveling ordinance needs to be enforced more.
And as a county entity, you can call your city Stevens Point or village, whatever.
And that was one of the messages we wanted to kind of get across today is all the great things that communities do need community involvement. So any time that you can encourage people to be involved, it always helps. And just to know that there's people that want to help and want to change things and want to help promote it. So sometimes it's hard to know what to do, but you're just involved. It helps a lot.
We're trying. We do what we can at our level, and we just hope everybody can at their different levels to get involved and move things forward.
I'm thinking right now about your comment, because I'm a student and I walked to school, well, some more last winter than this winter, but there's a house that's foreclosed on, and it's a corner house. No one owns it, and students always had to walk on the street in that area. So, and that's kind of a special case, but
Give them a call.
call the city. Oh, I'm still doing that next year.
Just like anything else, I think the ordinance is written, and if you don't plow, and don't quote me on this, but it's not something I enforce, so that if you don't plow or maintain your yards, somebody could come out there and do it for you and charge it back to your tax bill. So that's ultimately how it works normally.
So I could earn some extra money this winter by. I'm sorry.
Isn't that the enforcement with the snow plow or requirement to plow your walk? It's not so much you get fined $200, if you get fined, the cost for the city to go through and take care of it for you, which really, okay,
in theory,
if I just want them to do it for me, it's $20, $30, $40. Like, I can just let them do it.
Yeah. And I don't know what their set fees are and stuff like that. It's not something, but it's something I think that we definitely have to take an issue to. I had been out of the state of Wisconsin for 3 years, came back right before winter, and I was kind of in my own little world. So this year, getting back into it, I had been in Wisconsin my entire life, but then had been in the southern states for a while. So I worked for the city of Cape Girardeau down in southern Missouri, and when it snowed there, it stayed. Nobody plowed the roads, nobody shoveled the driveway, and everything was shut down for days because they had gotten snow because they didn't have anything. So being a northerner, you just kind of expect to get that stuff taken care of. But, that's all that I had.
I have cards too, so if anyone wants to